Welcome to KnotWork Myth and Storytelling. This is the show where ancestral wisdom meets the modern imagination. I'm your host and lead storyteller, Marisa Gowdy. I'm a myth worker, a story healer, and a writing coach. I'm the author of The Sovereignty Knot, A Woman's Way to Freedom, Power, Love, and Magic, and the founder of the Writer's Knot and Author's Knot communities. On KnotWork, we explore the mythology and folklore of Ireland and beyond. Whether you're drawn to Celtic culture and the power of the landscape, or whether you just like a good story and expansive conversation, you're in the right place. Fáilte. If you love what you hear and want to support the show, I'd be so grateful if you become a paid subscriber to my Myth is Medicine newsletter over on Substack. Look for the link at the top of the show notes or visit mythismedicine.substack.com. Before we explore this week's story, I have a question for you. What about your stories? Whether it's a book project that wants to be birthed, deep, authentic writing to support your business, or a personal creative project you can't quite name yet, I'm here to support you through the entire writing process, from the initial ideation stage to the crafting of narrative and beyond. If you're ready to write memoir, or a chronicle of the spiritual journey, or a book that explores healing, nature, and the power of imagination, as well as the toughest truths of today, call on me. I walk beside you as you uncover the story that only you can tell. I'm a confidant who supports you through the challenges, and I'm your champion who will offer the nudges you need to get the words on the page. And yes, we hold space for the mythical and the magical all along the way. Visit my website, marisagowdy.com, to learn more about my writing coaching services and set up a free 30-minute consultation.
Season 6, Episode 14, The Coldest Day in May. This week, we bring you a story from our storyteller in residence, Erica O'Reilly. It's inspired by Gearóid Ó Crúlaí's Book of the Cailleach, and I think it's a deceptively simple story about a man who goes on a quest to understand the nature of his world and finds the wisdom not necessarily from the voice of the goddess, but from the creatures who fly and swim and crawl across our gorgeous earth.
Fáilte. Is Misha Erica O'Reilly, Tahas Oram Efe Ansha. I am Erica O'Reilly, and I'm excited to be here as KnotWork's storyteller in residence. Today, let's share in the world of a reimagined story, inspired by an Irish tale that tells of one of the coldest days at the 1st of May. So with that, let's take a journey together. There once was a man who lived at the foothills of the Neefin Mountains. Here, every evening, he laid his head to rest under the same thatched roof that had belonged to his father, and his father's father, and even his father's father's father, and so on and so forth. For as long as the man could remember, he also had heard tales of An Cailleach living among these hills. For she was known to roam about during the day and keep watch of the land at night, perched upon her stone seat at the very highest peak. These days, as the 1st of May approached, you could feel a shift in the air. The birds were singing of new beginnings, herds of cows and sheep wandered about, and the sun could warm even the coldest of souls with the kiss of summer on wintered skin. And it was always around this time when the whispers would also begin. Did you hear? Did you hear what they say? Did you hear what they say of the coldest day? For years, the man had heard the same story. A 1st of May that was so cold that everything froze, even the ocean. This year, though, the man, man, well into his own winter years, decided he was going to see if there was any truth to this story. So he set out to ask the only person who could possibly know. That evening, with bread and butter wrapped tightly into his pack, the man left the only place he'd known as home and set off to find Mná Chaointe. Did you hear what they say? The man walked through the fields, around the herds, over the stone walls, and up the mountain until he found her at the very highest peak, waiting for him, perched upon her stone seat. The man could hardly believe his eyes when they fell upon her, for he always thought she was of legend or lore. "Ask your question," Mná Chaointe said before the man had even begun. The man paused and stammered as the wind seemed to whisk any air from his lungs. "Please, are you able to tell me the story of the coldest day in May?" he asked. "I have no account of this," Mná Chaointe said. The man turned to go until Mná Chaointe said, "Wait, I was not done. While I may have no account, go, ask Eagle, for he has been around much longer than I. Go back the same way you came, then descend into the valley towards the ruins of the old forge. You're sure to find him there." And just as the man lifted his head to offer his thanks, she had already disappeared. But he followed Mná Chaointe's instructions, and he walked. Did you hear what they say? The man walked down the mountain, over the stone walls and around the herds, through the fields and then into the depths of the valley until he found Eagle, waiting for him, resting within the ruins of the old forge. With a wingspan that seemed to stretch for miles and a crown of brown and white feathers upon his head, Eagle was more beautiful than the man could have imagined. In awe, he watched as Eagle cleaned his beak on the edge of what must have once been a sturdy and thick anvil. But now it was merely a sheer sheet of metal, as thin as a pin. "Ask your question," Eagle said, before the man had even begun. The man paused and stammered as the wind seemed to whisk the air from his lungs. "Please, are you able to tell me the story of the coldest day in May?" he asked. "I have no account of this," said Eagle. The man turned to go until Eagle said, "Wait, I was not done. For 300 years I've been here, and while I may have no account to share, go, ask Otter of the Rock, for she has been around much longer than I. Go back the same way you came, then follow the coast towards the floating rocks. You are sure to find her there." And just as the man lifted his head to offer his thanks, Eagle took flight into the night. But he followed Eagle's instructions, and he walked. Did you hear what they say? The man walked up from the depths of the valley, through the fields, around the herds, over the stone walls, and then following the coast, until he found Otter, waiting for him, floating within the waters of the rocks. He could hear Otter splashing about, but he couldn't quite see her, for her sleek frame was hidden from view, held within cork-like grooves of the large ancient stones. All of a sudden, Otter's big brown eyes peeked up from above the shoreline. "Ask your question," Otter said, before the man had even begun. The man paused and stammered as the wind seemed to whisk the air from his lungs. Please, are you able to tell me the story of the coldest day in May? He asked. I have no account of this, said Otter. The man turned to go until Otter said, Wait, I was not done. For 500 years I've been here, and while I may have no account to share, go, ask half-blind Salmon of Asrua. And if he has no account to offer, then you will find no account of this tale anywhere. Continue on your way, head north. You know where you are going, and you're sure to find him there. And just as the man lifted his head to offer his thanks, Otter dove out of sight. But he followed Otter's instructions, and he walked. Did you hear what they said? The man continued his walk, heading north, following the coast, knowing where he was going until he found Asrua and the salmon waiting for him. You have arrived, said an ancient voice from the water, as salmon's silvery scales shimmered within the first promising hues of daylight. Salmon raised their head at the water's edge, and the man saw the small hole where Salmon's second eye should have been. Ask me your question, said Salmon, before the man had even begun. The man paused and stammered as the wind seemed to whisk the air from his lungs. Please, are you able to tell me the story of the coldest day in May? He asked. I have memory of this. I was here, said Salmon. It was the 1st of May, and the sun shared promises of warmer days. A fly had enticed me to the surface, and when I leapt into the air, the icy grip of winter took hold of land and sea, and all froze suddenly. My body landed back onto the once watery surface, now hard as stone, and I lay there, wondering if this might be my end, until Seagull came and plucked my eye from my head. But as the blood poured from the socket, it pooled together and melted the ice, and soon I fell back into the watery depths. Just as Salmon finished their story, the sun rose on another day, and as the man lifted his head to offer his thanks, Salmon swam out of sight. They say that the man walked home that very day, continuing along the coast, headed south, passing the floating rocks, then over the stone walls, around the herds and through the fields, to find himself home again, resting his head under the same thatched roof that belonged to his father and his father's father and even his father's father's father, and so on and so forth. Did you hear what they say? He now holds the story of the coldest day in May.
Thank you for tuning in to KnotWork Myth and Storytelling. Please subscribe and review the show on your favorite podcast platform, and do share this episode with other lovers of mythology and story. By the way, everyone is a lover of mythology and story, even if they've forgotten. Creating this show is a labor of love, and your support will help me continue to craft and share stories throughout this season and beyond. Please consider becoming a paid subscriber to my newsletter, Myth is Medicine, over on Substack, where you'll find new writing and conversations each week.
You can find out more about my writing, my book, our online writing communities, as well as how to work with me as a writing coach at marisagowdy.com. Gratefully, I live, write, work, and record this podcast on the ancestral lands of the Munsee Lenape tribe, whose name means original people. Music on this show is performed by Beth Sweeney and Billy Hardy.